We're just 54 days away from the start of college basketball season, but today we'll be talking about some recruiting. St. John's eyeing a five-star recruit from its backyard. Dylan Mingo from Long Island Lutheran, a five-star recruit, according to 24/7, is the highest offered recruit St. John's has had their eyes set on as we kind of back away off of obviously what's happened in the class of course 2025. We'll be doing something out starting at the end of this week, where we'll look at each of the transfer portal players and what this each individual player, and we'll kind of have an episode where we spend a get to know you episode for St. John's coming up this season. So obviously we're looking ahead towards the class of 2026, and Dylan Mingo is someone that I think St. John's fans, this is the exact type of player, and I know Simeon Wilcher was a backyard player as well, but, and according to 24/7 Sports, as long as 24/7 Sports has been around, he has been the highest projected player to be swooped up by St. John's. I mean, he is the number one recruit ever in the 24/7 Sports rankings. And, Sim, I think a lot of us would say hasn't necessarily or didn't necessarily end up being the recruit that maybe a lot of fans were expecting. And, he was a quote unquote backyard recruit from, northern New Jersey at Roselle Catholic. But to be in Long Island, to be in the same state, that's what St. John's has an opportunity here to get with a Dylan Mingo. Now, we'll obviously talk about how close St. John's is in acquiring him, which in the grand scheme of things, and according to 24/7, they give you their warm and their cool temperature on the player. And right now he's cool for St. John's, but it's only September 10th. He does have visits scheduled with, or has had visits with, Washington and Miami and UConn. But we'll see if, the five-star wants to give St. John's and Rick Pitino a look. Now, this would obviously, if St. John's can really, get their name put into the hat and join UConn, this would even spark up the rivalry, obviously, even more. But this is a kid that, I mean, let's face it, a five-star recruit among one of the top, obviously among one of the top recruits in the country, and someone that you have to sit there and kind of say to yourself, man, if St. John's can get this guy, if St. John's can land this kid, I mean, what it would do. And according to 24/7, he's the 6th overall recruit in the country. He is the top recruit out of the state of New York. And for the longest time, St. John's fans have been wondering, why is it that every single, and I mean, they didn't have to look far to wonder why, but every single top kid in the city of New York that goes to Duke, that goes to a UConn, that goes to UNC, Kansas, they never stay home at St. John's. Well, for the longest time, it's because St. John's didn't have an identity. St. John's didn't know, from its nose to its toe. I mean, they had no idea where they were going, what direction they were going into. And it was tough for kids to kind of buy into it. I mean, you also factor in the stone ages of the 2000s when the program was going through a different phase, and then coming into the Steve Lavin days, they started to pick up steam again. That of course unfortunately didn't turn out the way that everyone would have hoped. And then Chris Mullen and Mike Anderson, and now we're pretty much caught up to the present. As you hear me knock over some sunglasses over here, that's that noise in the background. But St. John's, with the opportunity to be able to land this kid, if they could get themselves someone that could maybe raise even more interest into the city, what that would do. Now, when you look at the player profile for Mingo, this is from the scouting report on 24/7. He's a big guard, lengthy, versatile. He's got a great feel for the game, ability to get wherever he wants with the ball in his hands, has a good handle. I think so. He's 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan. Right now, they have him listed as weighing 190. Well, coming out of high school, Kadari Richmond was 6'5", 175. This kid could possibly be a better Kadari Richmond if he's got a jump shot. If he can shoot from the outside at the college game, there's a possibility, and if they can develop his outside game, there's a possibility that is a legit player profile. And the opportunity, and if you can do that, the sky's the limit. I mean, the ceiling is unbelievable. If he could play to the level that Kadari did, that we all got a firsthand look at last season for 34 games, I believe it was, that the ability there would be astounding, and especially in a Rick Pitino offense. Now, speaking of Coach Pitino, last year he put it out to the world that St. John's, because I think a lot of us were wondering what's going on with the recruiting. There was crickets on that end of things. I mean, the product on the floor was looking great, but as we're kind of nearing towards the end of the season, as we get into conference play and whatnot, we're all kind of wondering, well, where are we going on the recruiting end? Now, St. John's obviously did land Kelvin Odie, which was a huge get. And if things go well with Odie this year, who knows where he's at for next year. But if he is still at St. John's, and I mean, everyone obviously is under a 1-year contract, that could also be an exciting tool as well. Mingo and Odie in the same offense. But back to Coach Pitino. He put this out last year. Kind of shook a lot of people, but I think for a lot of St. John's fans, we really kind of anticipated this to be where the program was looking like it was heading, because one, we didn't hear anything, and two, we weren't really sure if the buzz and the local products and the kids that Rick Pitino wants to get out of the city, if they were really taking to the program. We like to think they would, but we really didn't know. I think that's where it comes into. If they could land Mingo, it would let everyone else know again, hey, this is a St. John's program that's legit. This is a St. John's program that is worth buying into for a young freshman. But this would also kind of go back a little bit on what Rick Pitino was saying. Would he be willing, which sounds funny really now, but would he be willing to take on a 5-star high school freshman? And there's got to be a willing. There's got to be a one on his end. But when I look at, if UConn, which is coached very similarly, right? I mean, Rick Pitino has wanted St. John's to be like the way that Hurley is coaching the Huskies. And I think if this kid is interested in Dan Hurley and UConn, and feels like, hey, I can buy into this, and Hurley feels the same way, there's got to be the opportunity there for Rick Pitino to say, hey, you know what? I run a similar style. It's the same demand. If he can play for him, if Hurley feels like he can play for him, I don't see why he can't play for me. St. John's has already offered him. Hopefully, it gets to the point to where they can schedule a visit, and we'll see where this thing goes. But right now, that's the word on Dylan Mingo. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Don't forget to follow at the Johnny's Report on X. Leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to also follow Big East Energy as well on X, and obviously subscribe on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.